Okay, welcome everybody. It is another season of soccer. All the big leagues are getting underway. Some of them have already started. We've got Serie A starting this weekend. I'm Ryan Mativier, and this is Nav over here. We play some soccer together, and we're going to be breaking down some best bets this season in the Shred the Spread podcast or video across all the big soccer leagues. And Nav, what do you got to say for yourself? How's it going tonight?
Hey guys, nice to meet you all. Yeah, I've been a big fan of soccer for quite a while, so I haven't really looked at the betting angle as much, but Ryan's been teaching me a lot over the last couple months. So yeah, I mean, I obviously know quite a bit, but there's always room to learn, and yeah, let's just see how it goes.
You're a big Chelsea fan, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Huge Chelsea fan for almost 10 years now. So, but it's going to be a tough season to be a Chelsea fan this season. So, uh, yeah, I mean, we're looking pretty good. A lot of youngsters playing this season, but I think, if we're expecting anything fantastic from our new manager and a lot of new players, I think that's a bit much. I see a lot of Chelsea fans kind of being really excited, like, oh, we're going to finish top four. We're probably going to make a run for the title. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Not to be pessimistic about my team. Obviously, I would love a good title run, but, I'd be happy with fourth place, get back in the Champions League, maybe, do some business in the next summer and, yeah, kind of take it from there.
So great that you're a fan, a diehard of fan of a team. I'm just a bit of a mercenary myself. Whoever I've got to bet on is my new favorite team every week. So I have no allegiance.
I mean, there's definitely joy in that. To be fair, like I do enjoy watching other teams. Like Liverpool are a team I enjoy watching quite a bit. Manchester City are also a team I enjoy quite a bit. I'm not in the category of fan who like hates the other team. I'm like, if you play good football and you're winning games and you're entertaining, then why not? Follow some other teams. But I personally tend to root for the slight underdogs. Kind of the Leicesters and the Wolves, and I guess Chelsea didn't really qualify under that category for a long time, but Chelsea this season,
The cards will be stacked against them this season with no ability to bring in some new players. It's already not gone that well. A blowout loss, a draw last week.
Yeah. I mean, so far Frank Lampard, three matches played as our new manager and 2 losses and a draw. Not the ideal start, but a lot of good moments, fantastic moments in all of those games. But I think along with there's an interesting alignment with the motivations of everybody at the club right now, with the young players coming in and kind of wanting to prove a point, and Frank Lampard in his only second season in management also trying to prove a point that he could be a really good manager at the highest level. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I see a lot of hard work out there. I see a lot of players trying their best to kind of put like a good performance out there and show everybody that they're wrong, that this team could do something great this season. But I have an inkling that they're going to try a little too hard, go maybe burn out the first like 30 minutes, 40 minutes first half, and then be very sloppy in the second half and concede a lot of goals. They actually remind me a lot of Liverpool under Brendan Rodgers. Very good going forwards, scoring a lot of goals, but also maybe not the most smart when it comes to game management.
So that could open up some great opportunities for all the bettors out there, with maybe some both teams to score bets if they can come out strong, get on the board, and then fade and get scored on, or even some halftime, full-time bets. A type of bet where you're betting, Chelsea to be drawn at half or winning at half and then losing at the end of the game, or winning and then winning and then drawing at the end. You can do all kinds of bets like that. Always good value if you can pull off one of those.
Yes, definitely. I'd say if you're looking to bet Chelsea, that's definitely the best route to go. Both teams to score, halftime, full-time result bets are going to be probably the kind of bets that you're going to win on the most. If we're with the squad being so young, I think being inconsistent in the game and throughout the entire season, this first season for a lot of them, I think that's probably the best option.
Do you have any thoughts on them this weekend on the road to Norwich?
I do find that Chelsea generally are a lot better at home than they are on the road. So I would say, and they are also do look more likely to concede goals and score goals at the moment. We don't really have a striker that I can confidently say is going to put the ball in the back of the net. But I've seen a pattern of Chelsea conceding at least one goal over the last 5 matches, all the way through preseason, conceding 3 against Reading and against Red Bull Salzburg in preseason. Obviously, the 4-0 loss at Manchester United, and our inability to hold on to a 1-0 lead last week against Leicester City. So
the bookmakers must be agreeing with you, because even both teams to score is minus 188. So you're not getting a whole lot of value there. And even an over 2.5 goals, so at least 3 goals or more in the game, is minus 175. So about the same. So you're not getting a whole ton of value in that.
No, not so much. High scoring games are, I think, as the odds are looking at right now, it's anytime Chelsea's playing, expect a lot of goals. I think, from a Chelsea fan's perspective, I hope it's, a scoring as opposed to conceding. But I think with the way that Frank Lampard's trying to play, everything's super open. And Norwich also having their own very, very good style of play. And Timu Pukki, their star strikers, scoring a hat-trick last game against Newcastle. Look for him to cause a lot of trouble in that very uncertain back line at Chelsea.
And I know, so we were talking just before we went on air here about Newcastle a little bit, and how they're not looking very good. They're actually the favorites to be relegated right now at even money. Yeah. So if you think that they're going to keep leaking goals, you can jump on them right now, still at a decent price at 1-to-1 value.
Yeah, I think if you want to, it's probably best to make that bet right now, because as they continue with their poor run of results, I'm sure the value on that bet's going to go down throughout the season. I don't give Newcastle any hope of staying up this season. I think, especially with Rafa Benitez, the last couple of seasons, they were definitely punching slightly above their weight. He's a very good manager. He's very good at organizing a defense, which is definitely a huge help playing in the bottom half of the Premier League. But, I mean, they have Steve Bruce now, who, again, a very good manager, but certainly nowhere near the quality of Rafa Benitez. So, and they've also lost their 2 best strikers from last season, in Solomon Rondon and Ayoze Perez going to Leicester City. I think they're going to struggle to score goals, and I think they're going to struggle to keep the goals out of the back of the net as well. So,
well, that's what we've seen so far. So maybe the value is more at the bottom of the table versus the top of the table, because at the top of the table, despite a poor result by Man City last week, tying 2-2 with Tottenham, which would not be what they were hoping for, Man City still a huge minus 200 favorite to win the EPL. Liverpool's out there at plus 250, so 2.5 to 1 odds. So, I mean, if you think Liverpool will maintain a lead, then some great value on Liverpool. But if you're a City supporter, the odds haven't really changed much despite that draw. I don't know where I was last week betting that both teams to score. I had a winning bet in the morning, and I think I decided I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this one. And
Right.
Goals just kept coming, and I'm like, why didn't I bet both teams to score? This was an easy one. Maybe not by itself, but with something else, I could have done that. But and then after those two teams, your Tottenham, despite getting that draw, are still 20-1 to win the,
Okay.
the EPL. So even getting that draw off City hasn't really shortened their odds any. Still
No.
early though, but I think my favorite bet on Tottenham, I'm not sure if anybody can still find it out there, but I grabbed it before the season started, was top London team at plus 125. So basically, they just got to be better than Arsenal and Chelsea. Could come down to it, but I think I like my chances.
Yeah, I think your chances are pretty good with Spurs being the top London team. I think the other reason too, with the odds not changing on Spurs despite their 2-2 draw at Man City, is I think they were very lucky to come out of that game with a 2-2 draw. I think Man City kind of overrun them in that first half. I think they were um, or defensively not as great as they were last season. I'm not really sure what's going on at Spurs. They don't really seem themselves the first couple of games. Their signings haven't really worked as well as they wanted to. I thought Ndombele was going to do a lot better the first couple of games of the season than he has. But it could just be, he's getting used to the league. It is a lot more difficult, in the Premier League. But Spurs definitely very lucky to come out of that draw, come out of that game with a draw. So I think that's probably why the odds didn't change. Spurs, I think, are pretty nailed on for third place. I don't see anybody really unseating them in that third place spot. So going with Spurs as a top London team, pretty good.
All right, so let's just take a quick little rundown of a couple of the big results from a couple of the other leagues before we get into some of our best bets for the week. I know you say you have a few futures bets out there. I've got a few game bets, a couple parlays to throw out there. But moving over, if we look at the Bundesliga last week, another shocking result. I guess another 2-2 draw, actually, coincidentally. Bayern Munich drawing with Hertha Berlin. And so that was a poor result, but opposite for the biggest challengers to Bayern Munich's crown there. Dortmund smashing 5-1, I believe it was.
Yes, it was 5-1. Good win for them.
So in that case, though, I have seen some odds change. I believe Bayern was paying about minus 425 to win the Bundesliga, whereas Dortmund was about plus 425, and those numbers have changed now to about minus 300, plus 300 on those two teams.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, maybe some good. I mean, it's too soon to say after one game, but
right.
I mean, I would have rather take it at just over 4-1 on Dortmund, but when you consider that they were ahead for so much of the season last year, and they brought in some new bodies, haven't lost too many pieces, I feel like maybe again it could just be overreaction Monday after one game, but
right.
I mean, they look really good, and I have to assume that they're going to be fighting neck and neck with Bayern Munich all season. I almost feel like it could be really worth it to jump on that 3-1 price right now and hope that if they can stay on top by a few, maybe they can get a 2 or 3 game lead at some point in the season. Maybe you can come back with a better price on Bayern Munich, like not at minus 300, but maybe you can get them minus 150 or even money or something and kind of hedge against yourself. And then as long as one of those teams win, maybe you can grab a profit. Something I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Honestly, I think they're really good value right now at 3-1 to win the Bundesliga. I think not only did they not lose anybody significant over the summer, but the additions that they've had with Hazard and Julian Brandt in attack, those two players are one of the best players in the Bundesliga at those other clubs. I think Hazard's been one of the more creative players in Europe last season with I think over 10 goals and over 10 assists over the entire season. And that's definitely like a huge bump in any team. And I think the other really important addition was also Matt Hummels, who has a lot of experience. He's won the Bundesliga before. He's obviously come back from Bayern Munich. So Bayern Munich, in a way, has sort of lost that experience and leadership in the back, and Dortmund has gained it. And it could be a very important piece of the puzzle for them to, get over the hump, if you will, from last season. I think Dortmund lost it by 2 points, 1 point, right at the end of the season.
I believe, didn't Schalke stop them? Didn't they get from, I believe it was a loss or a tie with Schalke that held them back? I can find it in about 1 second here. How many points back? We had, just 2 points back.
2 points back, yeah. So I mean, that's very close. I think that's probably the closest between first and second team in the Bundesliga in a really long time. And somebody like Matt Hummels is worth more than 2 points, I think, in your back line, with all the experience that he has. So I think it's a really good value bet if you want to place it right now. Or alternatively, you could wait till Christmas, kind of see, halfway through the season if they're, still within 3 points, 5 points of Bayern Munich. And maybe at that point, it's you probably won't get a 3-1 value on that bet, but I'm sure, Bayern Munich is going to stay the favorites until they lose the Bundesliga if they do at the end of the season. So you could wait, but I'd say it's a very, very good bet to do Dortmund for the Bundesliga at the end of the season.
And it wasn't very great value, but I thrown some Dortmund top four and some Dortmund to win without Bayern Munich, so basically to come second, into a few other futures parlays. So interesting. We'll see how that unravels in that league. Both of them are pretty sizable road favorites this weekend. Both should be looking to win. And we had another upset last week. We move over to Spain. Barcelona losing to Athletic Bilbao. So kind of, again, no Messi last week. And with no Messi, they seem to look in disarray. Can't get the wins without the little guy out there.
Yeah.
It's kind of made it's very, very Barcelona look like probably almost an easy bet to win in La Liga. And again, we're only 1 week in, but if you look at the odds, it's almost a coin flip right now. You've got Barcelona at -110, Real Madrid at +137, and then you've got way out there at Atletico Madrid at 6-1 right now. And
okay.
But I mean, and this is another case where you think just like where you assume it's going to be Bayern Munich, but there's some good value on Dortmund. You assume it's going to be Barcelona or maybe Real Madrid, but I mean, why not Atletico Madrid? It's 6-1. I think if I'm going to bet any of those three, at least from what I've seen so far, I mean, they've already thrashed Madrid. I believe it was 7-3 in preseason.
7-3. Yeah. It was a good game. I was watching that game longer back there. Yeah. They've made some really good additions. Joao Felix came from Portugal, and I thought he was going to take some time. He's such a young player to kind of bed into the team and start to actually show his quality, but he sort of fit right in like a glove, and he's been almost running the show for Atletico Madrid, and also bringing the best out of Diego Costa, surprisingly, who's been on fire throughout all of preseason. So 6-1 is pretty good. I mean, I'd still say that Barcelona or Real Madrid are probably going to win it. With Barcelona, I think, being my favorite to win it as well. But it's not a bad bet, Atletico Madrid. They could surprise us.
And barring injury, is there anyone who could win top goal scorer outside of Leo Messi? Because right now he's paying -163. So he's clearly the odds-on favorite.
Right.
Not tons of value, but also kind of looks like easy money.
Honestly, I haven't seen too much out of anybody for top goal scorer. I think Messi's going to take it again for another season.
So you look at the contenders, you've got teammates right behind him, Griezmann, 5.5-1, Suarez, 10-1. Then you're looking at Luka Jovic at 12-1 on Madrid, Eden Hazard at 14-1, Benzema 14-1, and then Morata from Atletico at 25-1. So you've got all players from those top 2 or 3 teams.
Right.
Suarez, I believe he's injured right now. I don't believe he played.
Yes, he is injured.
I don't know if I see Griezmann overtaking Messi as lead top goal scorer, especially Messi's going to take all the penalties. So
Yeah.
I struggle to see any way that he doesn't come top goal scorer unless he suffers injury.
Well, I mean, also the other thing is, I think the only other player that I could see kind of going toe to toe with Messi is maybe Luka Jovic. He's a very good finisher, but he has been injured throughout a lot of preseason. Sort of came in, played 2 games in preseason, and got injured, I think. And same with Hazard. I believe he's also nursing an injury at the moment. Um, so it remains to be seen when they're going to come back, and it always takes time to gel into a team. Real Madrid are also looking not the strongest. You would think, with the addition, like all the additions that they've made, all very, very good players, some of the best in Europe, that they'd be looking a lot stronger. But, again, like you mentioned, the 7-3 thrashing to Atletico Madrid. And just overall, generally, their play over the last few games has not been that encouraging. I could even see them finishing third under Atletico this season.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
And the story just keeps being more upsets from last week. If we switch now, we just take a quick look at the French league. PSG fell on the road to Rennes. Still massive favorites, though. I mean, I threw it into a futures parlay a few months back at minus 700. They've gone up to minus 1,000. They're still minus 1,000. And the only team that's anywhere near them in the odds is Lyon at 7-1. So
Right.
I'm not sure if there's really any value in betting the outrights in the French league. But with all the disarray kind of right now, with Neymar up in the air with PSG, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there'll be some distractions and there'll be some good value maybe on a week-to-week basis of betting against them right now until they get their squad settled.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good angle to take with PSG. I think until that Neymar saga gets resolved, I think if Neymar stays at PSG, they could be really good value to kind of take a look at maybe their games versus Lyon or the other teams in the top 3 and see, maybe they could falter there. But I think, Neymar right now, his whole transfer saga that's going on, it's definitely a huge distraction in that squad, I'm sure. I think they've also taken down all of his merchandising. That's how much they don't want him at the club anymore. They don't even want to sell his shirts.
The fans don't want their, I don't know if you watched the highlights, but there was some fairly inappropriate chants being sent his way and signs being held up, none favorable towards Neymar. So the fans have certainly put their opinion out there.
Yeah, but I mean, if Neymar stays, in the end, that could be very bad for squad morale. And if that does happen, I'd say maybe take a look at the odds again, see what's happening. Because I mean, at that point, he's not going to leave till January, and that's an entire half season that he could be a major distraction and major sort of disruption within the squad and with the fans and kind of with the stability of the club. That Lyon might, maybe they'll sneak in there, or at least, maybe it won't be as clear-cut win for PSG at the end of the season.
From a fan's perspective, it'll be probably exciting to have a little bit closer race, even if it's only for a while. From my futures bet, I am still hoping that PSG eventually run away with it because I have them mixed in with a few other teams to win different leagues. So let's just another quick look at another league. This one hasn't started yet, but will be tomorrow, Saturday. I believe it's actually
tomorrow. I think tomorrow's the first game.
Serie A, I believe, is. I feel like I've edited a bunch of articles, and they are starting Saturday. First game, Parma and Juventus. If we look at the odds, no surprise. I think we might have even touched on this a little bit earlier, but Juventus minus 225 favorite to win, followed by Napoli and Inter, basically the exact same odds at 5-1. And then you have to look way down, well, not too far down, but next in line, 40-1, AC Milan. So not much respect for anybody outside of the top 3. The one thing I saw that might offer a little bit of value, other than throwing Juventus into a parlay with a couple other teams to win their respective leagues or to come top 4, Maybe if I found a bet over at Bet365, you could pick which competitions Juventus would win, and you can get
Okay.
2-1 odds on Juventus to win Serie A and also win the Coppa Italia. Now,
Okay.
obviously, not their top aspiration to win Coppa Italia. You know, they brought in Ronaldo last year, you know, hoping to make the Champions League. So if it comes down to the end of the season, I mean, they're probably going to be resting players in lieu of having them ready for the Champions League.
Yeah.
However, Juventus has won this competition many times of late. They won in 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018. Last year, Lazio won, but obviously they've always been a competitive team, and they always are aiming for the Champions League, and they've still pulled out that win for the past 5 years. So could be some value that way if you look at it from that angle.
Yeah, I mean, Juventus are always going to be, I think, huge favorites to win every Italian competition, just because they've done it so many times over the last 10 years. And, I mean, they haven't done themselves any harm with the acquisition of Adrian Rabiot and Aaron Ramsey. And, I mean, they've still kept Paulo Dybala. They have Ronaldo. Matthias de Ligt from Ajax, who was one of the best probably defenders in Europe last season. The only reservations I have with Juventus is whether or not the players are going to take to Sarri in the way that everybody thinks that they are. He is a very rigid manager.
Your boy.
Well, I mean, yes, my boy, definitely. But, you know, he is a manager known for not really rotating his squad a lot, and for having a very clear way of playing, but also being you know, if anybody is going to sort of change or do something different from his very systematic way of playing, he's not a big fan of it. And you know, being our ex-manager from last season, I do know quite a bit about the way he likes to play, and you know, I could see Ronaldo kind of butting heads with him. You know, Ronaldo is a player that's really good and kind of trusts his instincts really more than anything else. And who could blame him? I mean, his instincts have gotten him to about 600 goals in his career. So you can't really blame the guy for trusting his instincts. But again, I mean, if all of the players gel with Sarri, then I think they could be a really good team and they could possibly run away with it again. I think that's the one biggest question. Right now, Sarri is actually down with pneumonia, so he's not going to be there for the first game. I don't know what the odds are for their first game of the season, but there's
minus 300, so huge road favorites.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they could end up without their manager there for the first game of the season. You know, they could be. They might mess up. Highly unlikely, but you know, it's one of those things. Like, generally, teams tend to be a little bit more chaotic when their manager isn't on the touchline.
Well, at plus 8-1 odds for Parma to win at home, you could look into one of those, either a delta if you thought there was a draw opportunity. I mean, I don't think so, but at 8-1, there's actually alternative Asian handicaps where you can take Parma to not lose by more than one or to not lose by more than two. So
yep. You know what? That might actually be a much better bet. I don't think they're going to be as good as perhaps people expect. You know, first game of the season, different style of play. You know, Allegri was always a manager that was that played very differently than Sarri. So I mean, you could see some chaotic moments in there with Sarri not being around. So I mean, that seems pretty good. You know, maybe Parma to only lose by one. Could be a pretty good bet. I guess it depends on the odds.
If you're looking at any teams to on the other side of the table to go down, all three teams that have come up from Serie B are the favorites to go right back down, with Verona and Lecce and Brescia, all actually odds-on favorites to go right back down. Not spend too much time up in Italy's top flight league. So
Serie A are known for like the newly promoted clubs to go pretty much straight back down, just because the disparity between Serie B and Serie A is very, very large. I think a lot of times.
Also, it's the TV deals, I believe, too, in that a league like Serie A, by my understanding, does not have there's not massive TV contracts like there is in the EPL. That when you get promoted, you get a whole ton of extra money in the EPL to like build your squad.
Yes.
Whereas there's not as many millions and hundreds of millions of dollars thrown at a newly promoted team. The newly promoted team who has like a tight budget in Serie B might come up and they're still working with that same budget against a bunch of other teams that have been there for years and are more established with large, budgets to work with. So it's pretty hard to compete. We've seen a few teams, a team like Benevento just get pummeled every week in past years.
Yeah, I mean, the TV deals, the way they conduct it in England is slightly different than most other European countries. I believe, because Juventus is such, Juventus and AC Milan and all the teams that have that like long storied histories, I know do get a much larger portion of the TV money in Serie A. I think with the Premier League, it's kind of sold as the entire Premier League, whereas I think with other European countries like Serie A, I think it's sold kind of depending on the team. So that's why you get that disparity. I believe that like if you are a promoted side from the championship, you get 150 million right off the bat just from the TV deal, which is why clubs like Aston Villa have spent, I think, 160 million this season on 12 new players, and like Fulham last season spent 125 million or something in that region. So, it's definitely the TV deals are sold differently. I don't know how exactly the mechanisms work, but it does filter to more clubs in England the way it works than it is in like Spain and in Italy, where the bigger clubs kind of get a majority of it just because they have more viewership. Not only from in Spain, but also outside of Spain.
Yeah, and if we're just doing a little wrap up of the futures possibilities, again, those two teams, Inter and Napoli, minus 450 to be in the top four. It looks like pretty easy bets. I mean, I wouldn't do that by itself. It's a lot of money to lay down to be sitting there for the next 9-10 months. But again, an Inter or a Napoli in a top four mixed with I don't know, another team that we've talked about previously to come top four, or might be able, if you can get something like a mix of two or three of those together and get some even money odds, could be interesting. Looking down the list, you got AC Milan plus 120, Roma plus 187, Atalanta 275, Lazio plus 333, and so on and so on. But those are a few odds for the top four. So,
actually, it might be worth kind of tracking Atalanta's progress throughout the season. I think that out of all of the teams you listed there, Roma and Lazio and AC Milan, I think my favorite to finish in the top four out of those three teams are probably Atalanta. I think they did really well last season. They've recruited fairly well. So, I mean, it's too early to tell right now. They haven't even played a single, game in Serie A, but 10 games in, maybe it might be a good idea to take a look at the odds again and see where Atalanta are at.
So here's a serious question: is this going to be on your record? Are you putting Atalanta on your season record?
On my season record, you know what? I'm willing to put them down for a top four finish.
Getting written down.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we're talking about records and what's going to be on the season-long record, so you've already got one in there at Atalanta top four. I made a whole bunch of future bets, but they were prior a few weeks back, so it's hard to throw anything in there at this point once the season started. But let's get into a few bets we might have. Right now, is there anything you like from any of the top leagues that you wanna start us off with?
I'd say Dortmund to win. I'd take the 3-1 bet for Dortmund to win. I am fairly confident about that one. I think Bayern Munich's reign on the Bundesliga will end the season, or at the very least, I hope. Again, Atalanta to come in fourth, I think, is really good.
You want to just go back and forth, maybe? I'll throw one out. You throw one out.
Sure.
All right. So I got a bunch of games for this weekend. A couple 2 or 3 team parlays I like. we probably touched on many of these teams in some of our things we've discussed already, but I'm looking at a Manchester United win at home to Crystal Palace, along with Tottenham to score at least 2 goals, and a Real Madrid win. So all fairly favored outcomes, but you put it together, you got a plus 108, so a little bit better than an even money return. I think it would be a huge letdown for Manchester United to lose at home to Crystal Palace. We could see a big win here. They've already beat Chelsea 4-0 at home. Drawing 1-1 to Wolves last week on the road is not a bad result when you consider how great Wolves were against the top 6 teams last year. So
yeah,
I'm not too concerned about that. Palace, they've yet to score. They were 0-0 at home to Everton, and they lost 1-0 on the road to newly promoted Sheffield United last week. So,
oh right, yeah.
I feel like traveling on the road to Manchester United should. I don't know how they're going to win that one. And you look at Newcastle, we just talked about their odds to be relegated. They're going to Tottenham. They've lost 3-1 on the road to another promoted side, to Norwich. Tottenham's looked strong, 3-1 win over Villa, the 2-2 draw with City, so they've already scored 2 and 3 goals in both games. So I feel like at home to potential relegation fodder, Newcastle, they could score at least 2. And
Spurs are also particularly good at home. So that is a very good bet. 2 goals against Newcastle, who also have a fairly leaky defense as well. So more than 1 goal probably for them away from home.
And those two just by themselves, I found between minus 130 and minus 137. I'm not even opposed to just doing that and laying a little bit of juice. But Real Madrid is a minus 500 favorite at home, and if you throw them in there, you can get yourself over the even money. They're home to Valladolid. Last season they beat them 2-0 at home and 4-1 on the road. So I don't know how that would be a massive shocker for them to lose at home to them. So I like that one as one of my parlays this week. I don't know, you got it. What else you like?
I honestly, I'd go either probably a draw for Arsenal away from home. I think Arsenal's been looking really solid. The first 2 games, they won 1-0 against Newcastle. I think Arsenal not conceding a goal the first game of the season has been something I haven't seen in many, many years. And also, they've actually had the best start since 2009 or 2010. As far as I know, they've lost one of their first 2 games for the last almost 10 years. So this is their best start in many years. And Liverpool also, I think, still feeling the effects of some of their key players playing in the Africa Cup of Nations all the way and not having a good preseason. They've been looking a little lethargic the first couple of games. I know Norwich had quite a few really good chances against them first day of the season. I'd say maybe both teams to score and a draw for Arsenal.
All right,
it's probably a good bet.
Good odds on the draw, plus 360. So you're a little under 4-1 odds there if you can hit that draw.
Yeah.
And is that what you want to go with, or you want to do both teams to score and Arsenal to win?
Yeah, I think Arsenal have a very good forward line. Nicolas Pepe and Alexander Lacazette is also really good, and Aubameyang looking very, very sharp the first couple of games of the season. So I'm expecting him to score against the Liverpool defense, especially with Alisson not in there and Adrian making that huge mistake against Southampton last week. He could be maybe a little rattled, maybe the defense not trusting him so much with his feet. There could be some trouble in their back line, not quite as stable as they were last season. So I'm expecting Arsenal to score, and I think it's expecting Liverpool not to score at Anfield is going to be, it's not going to be realistic. I think they're either one of Salah, Mane, or Firmino is definitely going to score. So I'd say it's a pretty good bet. Both teams score, and I think Arsenal could scrape a decent draw out of this, maybe 1-1 or 2-2.
Wow! All right, going out on a limb there. That would be a big payout for you if you decide to put some money on that, because that would be 8-1 odds on that. So
I actually do have $10 on that.
Wow! All right then.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, I have a little bit of action on this game as well. I've thrown it into a parlay. I also like both teams to score. I want to mix that in with the Dortmund win tomorrow.
Okay.
Dortmund's playing on the road to Cologne, promoted Cologne. Dortmund, like we said, they 5-1 win last week. They're playing a promoted side. A promoted side that lost 2-1 on the road to Wolfsburg. I just don't see Dortmund losing tomorrow after such a convincing win last week. And with Bayern Munich dropping points, this is a great opportunity to keep that gap ahead of them in first. And like you said, I mean, two high-powered offenses with Liverpool and Arsenal. This fixture always sees goals. 5 of the last 6, both teams have scored. And the totals going backwards from the last result to further back, there was 6 goals, 2 goals, 6, 4, 4, and 7. So
wow. Okay.
It's a high-scoring shootout. So I'm going to take those two teams together at plus 126. And then one of the leagues I follow super closely, MLS soccer. Love betting some MLS soccer. I know we talk MLS sometimes after our soccer games, Nav.
Yeah, we do.
I like, if there's a team that I do enjoy, it's Toronto FC, our local team nearby. Now, I'm not going to put any action on TFC right now, but I like a home win for New England mixed with a home win for Philadelphia to get. We got New England at home to Chicago, Philly home to DC. You put those two together, you've got a plus 168, so almost 2-1 odds. And a lot of this is just going against the teams. I mean, both home teams are strong, but both road teams are either really bad or struggling or have things going against them in this league. Chicago, even though they've won 3 or 4 games, they put themselves back in the playoff picture. And they did beat New England 5-0 earlier this year, but that was a completely different New England team before they fired Brad Friedel and have gone on a complete tear to rocket up the standings and find themselves in a playoff position. Since they've lost just once over the last 14 matches, New England. And when you consider that one loss came to LAFC, I mean, you can't knock them for that because LAFC is just blowing everybody away. They just smashed them 4-0 last night. So in that regard, their past 2 matches, they've tied 3-3 and 1-1, both on the road to Seattle and the Red Bulls. So they're even getting results on the road. And Saturday, they're going to be playing at home. Now, at home, Chicago, their opponent, little respectable. They're not bad. 7 wins, 2 losses, 6 draws. But they have 1 road win all season, and it's against the Houston Dynamo, who are awful. Used to be good at home.
Oh, no.
Now they're not even good at home. They fired Wilmer Cabrera. So beating Houston is nothing to get that excited about.
No, it is.
The whole season, Chicago's 1 win, 9 losses, 3 ties. Last year, over the full season, they only had 2 wins on the road. Now, let's just go back further back. These numbers are ridiculous. 2017, Chicago, they had 4. They won 4 road games. 2016, they won 1. And in 2015, they won 0.
Oh, my goodness.
So in almost 5 full seasons, the Chicago Fire have a road record of 7, 58, and 16. That is awful. You can't bet Chicago on the road. There's just no way.
No, you really can't.
Also, they've got to be tired because they've gotten a red card in each of their last 2 games and in the early portions of the game. So they've played basically one of their last 2 games down a man.
Oh, my goodness.
Nicholas Gaitan had his red card rescinded, so he will be able to play this week. But still, the rest of the team played back-to-back games, half of the game down a player.
Right.
I'd be shocked if they won. And when you look at the other game, Philly and DC, Philly coming off a 2-0 road loss, coincidentally to Chicago, but it was a home game for Chicago. And Philly also had a red card. They played half the game down a player as well. It was their 3rd loss in 8 games. So pretty strong record, only 3 losses in 8 games. They're tied in first with Atlanta right now. So you've got one of the East teams. DC, they're falling, and they're falling fast. They've got 3 wins in 15 games. There was big expectations for the team with Wayne Rooney this year, and they've been awful. Like, they came out.
They have been. Actually,
they're one of the most boring teams to watch. Nothing good happens in their games. And now they're not even going to have Wayne Rooney because Wayne Rooney got sent off for the red. We were talking about this game last night at the bar now.
Yes, we were.
Well, that red card they had was Wayne Rooney's. Wayne Rooney is sent off. So that means no Wayne Rooney this weekend. They're playing on a short week because they just played Wednesday with no Rooney in Philadelphia. I think Philly's got to win this game. I'd be shocked if they didn't do it. And it was a loss last night, by the way. They went down early. They did manage to, but then Red Bulls took a red card as well, so things did balance out. They drew 1-1, and then a few minutes later, the Red Bulls got a penalty, and they took a 2-1 win. So that's a game a little parlay that I really think could hit in MLS. Do you got another bet? I got one more parlay. Is there anything else you like?
No, I think that's all I have right now.
All right, so I see that our time allotment on here is winding down, I think. So I'm just going to quickly give out a Bundesliga parlay. I like both teams to score with Paderborn and Freiburg and Dusseldorf and Bayer Leverkusen. Put the score for both of those together. Take a plus 125 on that. If you look at it's a high-scoring league. A thing I love about Bundesliga, there was 9 matches last week. Only one game ended 0-0. There was one game that was 1-0. And all the rest of the games had at least 3 goals. And 5 of the 9 saw both teams to score. I had some money on this game last week. Paderborn looked really good. They're a promoted side. They were tied 2-2 at halftime with Bayer Leverkusen. They went on to lose 3-2. So a lot of goals in that game. And they'll be playing Freiburg, who was 3-0 home winners over Mainz. Last season, they allowed the sixth most goals in the league. Freiburg did 61 goals in 34 matches. So definitely a team capable of letting in goals. But
that's almost 2 goals a game. So
absolutely. But they got 3 of their own, though, last week, and playing a promoted side on the road, though. I think Paderborn, they looked strong last week. I think they can at least get 1. And if you look, going back into last season, their last 9 road matches for Paderborn, they've allowed at least 2 goals. No, sorry, this is for Freiburg. My mistake. Going back into this season and last season, they've allowed 2 goals in 7 of 9 road games. So they get scored on a lot on the road. They have at least. I'm not ready to see Paderborn keeping a clean sheet. So, and even Paderborn as a promoted side. As a second-place team, they allowed 50 goals in 34 games, and that was the most of any top 5 team in the league.
Okay.
And then Dusseldorf, team that's capable of scoring and getting scored on a lot. They're coming off a 3-1 road win, playing Leverkusen, like I said, off a 3-2 home win. Last year, Leverkusen won 2-1 on the road, 2-0 at home. So Leverkusen certainly can score, but I like how much Dusseldorf could find the net themselves, and I'm banking on some goals in this one as well.
Yeah, Bundesliga is very good for a high number of goals. So I'd say that those are very good bets. I know Leverkusen have a very good attack, so definitely look for them to score quite a number of goals. But yeah, I think those are good bets.
All right. So the only other thing I might throw out there, I could see a tie with Southampton and Brighton in the EPL. I'm probably going to bet like a unit on most of these things, but I might be willing to put maybe half a stake on a draw, especially with Bet365. Yeah. You can cash out. If these teams are drawn at half or 60 minutes in or 70 minutes in, you might be able to just cash out and take a little profit. Since both of the teams have been back in the EPL a couple of years ago, there's been 2 1-1 draws already. Last year, Southampton won 1-0 in the League Cup. They tied 2-2 in Southampton in an EPL match. And again, a 1-0 Southampton win on the road. So relatively low scoring, a couple draws. I mean, Brighton's looked pretty good. Southampton not as good, but I think that might balance out a little bit in this one.
The only thing with Brighton is they do have a new manager. I know a lot of those results were under Chris Hughton, which was their previous manager, and now they have Graham Potter, and he's known for being somebody who likes to play more attacking football as opposed to Brighton's ex-manager. So, take those results from last season with a grain of salt, because they are definitely playing a different style of football this season under a new manager. But I think a draw should be a fair result. I think Brighton and Southampton, again, 2 teams that are, I think, bottom 5 of the league. I believe Southampton came in 17th last season and then 18th the season before, or I might have that reversed actually. But definitely in the bottom 5 the last 2 seasons running, and Brighton also the same thing. So there are very equal teams in terms of quality. But again, it's hard to say with the new manager kind of still implementing his new style and trying to play more attacking football. It might be a much higher scoring game this time around. Yeah.
That's one of the things I like with draws in Bet365, though. If as long as your teams are drawn 3/4 of the way through the game, you might be able to, cash out.
Yeah.
There's so many times a goal gets scored in the final dying minutes or the last 10 minutes
Yeah.
or stoppage time, but why not cash out 70-80% of your winnings and just not stress that out.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's all we got for you guys today, and so hopefully we put some good betting knowledge out there, gave some good tips. We'll be tracking these tips. I'll try to make a graphic that we can throw up in here, or I'll just paste them under the video in YouTube when I put it up.
Okay.
But, Nav, thanks for coming out tonight. And
No, thank you for inviting me on. I was very excited to do this podcast. Try to be kind to me. This is my first podcast ever, so definitely a little bit of nerves in there. But hopefully, I've given some insight that maybe some people didn't notice or didn't know about, and could help their chances at getting some good profit this weekend.
Sounds great, and we'll hope to maybe do this again next week. Certainly, a few times throughout the month, as long as our schedules line up, and we'll hope to get a few other guests out there too. I know we did this a few times last year. I had Daniel and Alex, and we'll hope that those boys can come back as well at sometimes when schedules align. So
yeah,
until next time, happy betting, everybody.
All right, see you guys.